rise of King Viserys II Targaryen, the second son of Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen and Prince Daemon Targaryen, the Rogue Prince, was one that no one living at the time could have foreseen. In the wake of the Dance of the Dragons, his elder brother King Aegon III was made king, though still a boy. At the time of his brother's ascension to the throne in 131 AC, the then Prince Viserys was thought dead after his disappearance during the height of the Dance of the Dragons, with him not returning to Westeros until 134 AC, after Lord Alan Velaryon discovered the prince was being held captive in Lys. His brother, King Aegon III, fathered 5 children, 3 girls, Daena, Rhaenyra and Aelena, and 2 boys, Daeron and Baelor. It very much seemed at the time that the succession was secure, with Prince Viserys remaining an ever-loyal shadow at his brother's side. It must be said, for the many years that Prince Viserys served as hand, he did so very ably, with him regarded as one of the best, strongest, and loyal hands that Westeros ever saw. Even in the years before rising to the position of Hand of the King, Prince Viserys showed utmost support and loyalty to his brother, always offering sage advice, always with his best interest at heart, something that could not be said for the vipers at court who surrounded the king, vying for power. While the succession was secure, King Aegon had 2 sons to follow him upon the Iron Throne. It was still a shock to many when King Aegon III died at the young age of 36 in 157 AC, leaving his 14-year-old son Daeron to ascend the Iron Throne. Daeron's short reign was focused on war and the hopes of the conquest of Dorne, and while not agreeing with his nephew's plan, Viserys loyally served as his hand. But when Daeron died in 161 AC at the age of 18 in the sands of Dorne, his younger brother Baelor would take the throne, and things would only get more complicated for Viserys. King Baelor was a religious fanatic, with his whole life dedicated to the faith, and while there were certainly some positive aspects to the reign of Baelor, such as his care for the small folk, given his zealous nature, many of his religiously motivated edicts were disastrous. While Viserys, as hand, did his best to work within the confines of the erratic nature of King Baelor, it was not an easy task, especially when it came to situations such as the creeping power of the High Septon, or the locking away of Baelor's sisters in the Maiden Vault. But still, Viserys did what he could, and remained a loyal servant to his brother's fanatic youngest son. There was one looming issue of the 10-year reign of Baelor. When Baelor became king, he convinced the High Septon to annul his marriage to his sister Daena, citing the fact that the marriage had never been consummated. The High Septon was happy to accommodate the king's request if it gave the faith Baelor's ear and attention. It became clear that the king had no intention to take another wife when he took a Septon's vow, a vow which prevented such an action. Given that Baelor would not marry and had no children of his own, the issue of succession was thrown into chaos once more, a situation that seemed unthinkable during the later years of King Aegon III's rule. Rather than wait for Baelor's death to deal with the matter, it was thought best to decide Baelor's heir as a matter of importance. The way the Lord saw it, there was 2 clear choices: King Aegon III's eldest daughter, the king's sister, Daena, or King Aegon III's younger brother, Prince Viserys. Given that Daena had birthed a bastard son, and on account of her gender, Prince Viserys would become heir. Given his age, should he have died before Baelor, the crown would pass to Viserys' eldest son, Prince Aegon. The choice of Viserys over Daena was not really much of a choice in reality, given the outcome of the Dance of the Dragons and the precedents both it and the Great Council of 101 set. Despite some support for Daena, Viserys was the much stronger candidate, especially given his decades of sage and loyal service as Hand of the King. Viserys had married Lara of Lys, the daughter of the man holding in captive in Lys, Lysandro Roger, when he was very young, and had fathered Aegon at the age of 13, 2 years after returning to Westeros. Thus, all 3 of his children, Aegon, Aemon and Nerys, were older than those of his brother by several years. By naming Viserys heir, the succession was once again solid, even more so than under King Aegon III, thanks to his 2 sons, Aegon and Aemon. Even should, in a situation where Viserys passed before the king, which seemed likely given Baelor's age and the age of Viserys, then Aegon would take the throne. himself already having several children by the start of the reign of Baelor. In reality, no one truly expected Viserys to become king, but King Baelor did die young in the year 171 AC at the age of 27. During the later years of his reign, the king had taken to fasting to repent for what he saw as the sins of all of his small folk. After Princess Aelena gave birth to bastard twins, Baelor once again fasted to repent for her sins. The king took enough bread and water to allow him to live for 40 days. On the 41st he collapsed and died while praying. When King Baelor the Blessed passed from this world, the crown passed to his uncle, King Viserys II Targaryen, aged 49 at the time. He is one of the oldest kings to take the throne. While in years to come, there would be even more unlikely kings than Viserys. Given the course of events it took for the crown to fall to him, he most certainly can be counted amongst the most unlikely rulers of Westeros. Many were hopeful for the coming rule of King Viserys II. He was a strong-handed king to 3 kings and very politically astute, with many feeling he had all the makings of a good king and a stable king, something that had been lacking since the death of King Aegon III.